Here's how to escape an existential crisis. First, let's think about an existential crisis as you, in possession of the most complex object in the universe, the human brain, doing the most complex thing the human brain can do, which is think about really high-level meta concepts like why am I here? Why is there something rather than nothing? Does human life have any meaning? Does any of this matter? Where do I fit into all of this? Are we alone in the universe? Why was I put here? Will I live a long time and contribute anything? Does me contributing anything matter in the long term? All of these questions, especially if you're stuck on them, if they've kind of possessed you like a demon and they won't let go of you and you're just completely under the weight of them and you can't turn them off, you can imagine yourself in an extreme state of effort because you are. The organ, the brain that burns 25% of your calories is doing the hardest thing it can do. So think about yourself as someone trying to hit a PR in the gym with a huge amount of weight on their back. Like you're trying to squat 1,000 pounds and you're just straining underneath it. Your face is red, the veins are popping out. You're in a position, a posture that the body is not meant to maintain for very long periods of time. So whether or not you think existential crises are healthy or that you should go through them and break through to greater understandings of the universe or your place in it, I want to tell you from experience that being stuck in that for a very long time is not healthy. It is expending your energy at an extreme level of difficulty. And not only is it physically a difficult process, there's also the obvious fact that you're questioning everything about your own life. You're questioning your every action. You're questioning the yes or no-ness of existence, whether you should accept and love what's happening to you, or whether everything is kind of suspect, whether or not this universe is kind of flawed and there's something wrong with it and that you're not meant to be here. So thinking in those ways is not healthy for long extended periods of time. So what I want to help you do is break out of that if you don't feel like you're coming to any answers. If you're just kind of trapped in an existential crisis rather than processing through one healthily and coming to epiphanies that are actually moving you forward. So if you're trapped, as I've been trapped for many months at a time sometimes, there's really two things that you absolutely have to do. The first thing is understand that this is a biological process that's taking place. Even if you're not a materialist, you need to understand that something is going on within your skull that's making this happen. We all know this. We look at an MRI, we know that this organ is working when you're thinking. So even if you believe in a soul, understand that there is a very complex chemical process going on, and it's not a healthy one for your overall functioning. So what you need to do is biologically get yourself together. There's a lot of research about how things like a vitamin B deficiency, not enough sunlight, not a healthy circadian rhythm, not enough sleep, and other underlying physical issues can send you into these sort of dark, unnatural thoughts. Like us as primates, as humans, as hunter-gatherers, we're not supposed to be thinking, what's the point of this all the time? We're supposed to be hunting, achieving, doing these things. And I don't think existential crises are bad, but if you're an extended one, you need to understand you're not in a natural physical state, which means I would examine your diet, I would examine your breathing. Understand that you're breathing shallowly, you're kind of in a low state of panic, you're not thinking that you're safe. In a way, your existential crisis is a reflection of you not being safe, that this universe is a suspect, unsafe place. So you need to rewire yourself to be well-fed, relaxed, focused, and then you'll at least be in a physical state to bear the weight of this physical process. Along with this, you need to use biology to try to knock yourself out of it. So for me, the way I knocked myself out of a sort of repetitive, compulsive existential crises was by doing something very risky. Now, I'm not going to recommend anyone do anything dangerous, okay? I don't know you. I don't know what you should do. But for me, I went to a rodeo and got in the ring with the bull. And I will tell you, when I was facing that bull with its sharp horns and it was pawing the ground and it was charging at me, it all turned off. For the first time, my brain was like, this process, which we've been running in the background for 6 months, it's gone. It's bull time. And so I felt like I was in a perfectly natural state. Colors grew vivid. All I thought of was nothing. All I could perceive was me and the bull and the subtle body language that was telling the bull if I was prey or not, if it was going to charge at me. We were in this very subtle, very, very primitive communication, because really what's more primitive than a giant monstrous animal charging at you? So things like skydiving, things like surfing, things like any of these, kind of more extreme behaviors that put you in an adrenalized state can work for this, but be very, very careful, obviously. Now, The other thing you can do to knock yourself out of an existential crisis is to understand that you are not that smart. And the way you do this is by reading the professionals at existential crises who have probably already figured out everything that you're thinking about and found answers and then blown apart the questions and then moved on. Like, your existential crisis is probably 200 years obsolete. You're probably asking questions that philosophers asked a long time ago and either figured out or abandoned or at least took to their logical conclusions and like wrapped up in a sense. Like, there are things that people ask themselves that are figured out. So for example, some people in existential crises loop on, am I a blank slate or am I genetically determined? Am I like something that is just constructed from the moment I was born, or do my genes determine who I am? And guys, the case is closed on this. We are not blank slates. This is just one example of something that philosophers and scientists have figured out. So for me, the person that knocked me out of the existential crises was Nietzsche. Nietzsche had thought of everything I had ever considered to a much, much higher level of clarity, to a much, much higher level of complexity. He had thought of it all before me, come to every conclusion, asked every single question. Basically, reading him, it's like the thing that was going on in here just got blown to bits, because I was like, oh, well, this guy already answered all these questions. This guy already took these questions to their logical conclusion. It's like Nietzsche had my existential crises for me 200 years ago to a much, much higher level of clarity. And so he kind of like pushed me through my own process. And I really believe if I hadn't read Nietzsche, I would have been stuck on those questions for years. I would have been haunted by these pieces of confusion about the universe, other people, why they treat each other so badly, why there's war, why there's poverty, like all of these things I would have been trying to figure out myself. But because I read Nietzsche, they kind of got resolved for me, and I was free to move on from those questions. And not enough people do this. And the trouble is, even if you're interested in philosophy and you're kind of a deep person, you're probably watching YouTube videos and not reading the real text. And YouTube videos aren't enough. Like, a YouTube video on Nietzsche will tell you, Nietzsche talked about the eternal recurrence, wherein he wondered if the world would repeat itself over and over to infinity and used it as a thought experiment. It's just summarizing these things. It's not showing you the detail and the ferocity with which Nietzsche explored these ideas, which means that you will be free of them because Nietzsche will have attacked these ideas for you. So don't watch YouTube videos. Go to the source. And I truly believe if you do these things, if you expose yourself to really intense situations that can knock you out of your own head, and if you biologically take care of yourself and make sure you're breathing well, eating healthy, and are capable of long, sustained focus, and then you let the professionals at existential crises help you out and answer questions for you and explore things for you and knock you out of your own little mental traps, you can escape no matter how deep the crisis is. I believe in you. That's all.